I'd like to also cordially, respectfully greet you all, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to respectfully welcome, greet the Secretary General of NATO, our Secretary General, who, for well-known reasons in Hungary, is held in very high esteem. I am pleased that during his term as Secretary General, the cooperation between Hungary and NATO has become stronger. The Secretary General has always been a forthright, open to cooperation person in this sense. We have reviewed the relationship between Hungary and NATO on our meeting today. I recalled to the Secretary General that Hungary is a loyal and dedicated member of NATO. Currently, there are 1,300 Hungarian soldiers involved in NATO operations. 1,300 Hungarian soldiers. We are one of those not very numerous countries among NATO members who are complying with all their responsibilities undertaken, the commitments in terms of the defense spending. Our defense spending exceeds 2% of the GDP, and the 20% development target is also far exceeded by Hungary. We are also involved in air policing for Slovakia and for Slovenia, and from time to time in the Baltic. And also we are the liaison embassy for NATO in important Central Asian and African countries. So these are the contributions that Hungary is offering to NATO to make it stronger. These are the commitments, Mr. Secretary General, that Hungary will continue to deliver on in the future. The other important topic of our discussion was the Russian-Ukrainian war. It is well known here that Hungary's position is different from the majority of NATO member states. When it comes to the question how we could come out and get to peace the shortest way possible, the response by Hungary is different from others. Hungary acknowledges the fact that there are opinions in terms of weight and majority in NATO that are different from ours. We have always been allowed to share our opinions, to articulate our opinions. We are grateful to the Secretary General for allowing this, for allowing us to share our situational analysis. But Hungary does not have the capability or the strength to actually change opinions that are far exceed in terms of its weight and influence. Hungary has made it clear that she does not intend to block any decisions in NATO that might be different from our, we believe, rational situational analysis. What we have concentrated on during today's meeting, and I have asked the Secretary General to make this clear, that for every military out of area operations, Hungary, any out of area operation can only be voluntary participation. Therefore, Hungary has been granted the guarantees that she required, especially in light of the fact that at the recent European parliamentary elections, the most important decision to be made was war or peace, and the Hungarian electorate reinforced the mandate of the Hungarian government to not engage, not participate in a war that is in an out-of-area operation for NATO. I thank the Secretary General for this visit today. I thank him for the discussion, and I thank him for the decisions that he has shared with us. Thank you very much. And I now ask Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO.
Prime Minister Orban, dear Viktor, it's good to be back in Budapest and to meet with you today. Thank you for hosting me and my delegation on the eve of our meeting of NATO defense ministers in Brussels later this week, and less than a month ahead of our important Washington summit with the heads of state and government in July. Hungary has been a valued NATO ally for 25 years. You lead one of our multinational battle groups helping to deter aggression. You host important military headquarters, including our multinational division center. You support stability in the Western Balkans, including with a significant contribution of troops deployed to Kosovo with our KFOR peacekeeping mission. And since the beginning of Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine, Hungary has provided shelter to many thousands of Ukrainian refugees and helped with rehabilitation of wounded soldiers. All of this contributes to our shared security. And I welcome your statement that you will remain a dedicated and loyal NATO ally. Today, the Prime Minister and I discussed a number of important and some difficult issues. We also discussed the NATO summit in Washington next month. At the summit, we will take decisions on key issues, including deterrence and defense. Since 2014, NATO has undergone the most significant transformation in our collective defense in a generation. We have put in place the most comprehensive defense plans since the Cold War, with more forces, more capabilities and more investment. And we have deployed combat-ready troops to the eastern part of the alliance. We do all of this not to provoke a conflict, but to prevent a conflict. NATO's core task is not to wage war, but to prevent war, as we have done for 75 years by providing credible deterrence and strong collective defense. To ensure there is no room for miscalculation by Moscow or in any other potential adversary about our capacity and resolve to protect every ally. For 75 years, NATO has been the ultimate guarantor of security for our members, providing peace, freedom and prosperity in the whole of Europe, not least in the countries of the former Warsaw Pact. Prime Minister, you and I also discussed the situation in Ukraine. At the summit, I expect allies will agree a leading role for NATO in coordinating and providing security assistance and training for Ukraine. I also expect allies will agree a long-term financial pledge to provide military support. This will provide the predictability and accountability that Ukraine needs. Prime Minister Orban has made it clear that Hungary will not participate in these NATO efforts, and I accept this position. And I'm glad that today the Prime Minister and I have agreed on modalities for Hungary's non-participation in NATO support to Ukraine. No Hungarian personnel will take part in these activities, and no Hungarian funds will be used to support them. At the same time, the Prime Minister has assured me that Hungary will not oppose these efforts, enabling other allies to move forward. And he has confirmed that Hungary will continue to meet all of its NATO commitments in full. So, Prime Minister Orban, thank you again for your hospitality. I look forward to continuing working together with you, and I'm looking forward to see you in Washington. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Secretary General. We have time for two short questions. First, it's the Hungarian National Television. Thank you very much. Hungarian Evening News. Prime Minister, I would like to ask you, what is the guarantee that Hungary will not be forced or coerced by NATO into any undertaking in Ukraine? There are two guarantees we have. One is the Hungarian government, and the other is, of course, the Secretary General of NATO, who quite clearly elaborated that he does not have any intent to this end, and the Hungarian government has a very clear stance on the Ukrainian-Russian war. We are not children. It is not worth chasing illusions. This is a very, very difficult political issue. The whole invasion of Russia raises a lot of issues in the global politics as well. It is not easy in this situation to find the appropriate answers. And there will always be times, moments in time when decisions have to be made urgently, when there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and one of these times are just now. The Secretary General has said, especially because of the NATO summit, in these decisions we have been able to articulate the Hungarian position and to come to a fair agreement with the Secretary General. But as I've said, this difficult period has not come to an end. Once the NATO summit is over, there will be difficult moments when again there might be decisions, difficult moments that might raise the issue of involvement in the war in that phase. But those decisions will have to be made. So I can only undertake any guarantee that I've done at the elections on Sunday. When the decision comes, when the moment comes, I will represent a position that is equitable for Hungary, and I will try to have that informed. Thankfully, the founding documents of NATO make it clear that for any out-of-area operations and participation therein can only be voluntary. And this is a right that has been quite clearly guaranteed by the Secretary General, reiterated. Therefore, Hungary continues to have a room for movement in the forthcoming difficult moments that might arise. Anyway, now let us rejoice that this discussion today has concluded with an agreement. Hungary has made it clear that she does not want to, and she is not able to change the decision of 31 other member states. And I'm very happy that NATO has acknowledged, through the person of the Secretary General, that Hungary wants to fully avail herself of the opportunity for a room for movement, for consideration that is guaranteed by NATO. And we've been given the guarantee today that when it comes to the Russian-Ukrainian war, when it comes to military out-of-area operation, we do not have to participate in that, that Hungary will not provide funds or personnel for this war, nor will the territory of Hungary be used for any involvement in this war. So we have been granted everything that we have found necessary, we have deemed necessary. This was a difficult, but I believe very constructive discussion with the Secretary General. I'd like to thank him for this very correct agreement in the end. Reuters.
I'm Bolizsár Gyuri from Reuters News Agency, and I would like to ask Secretary General, Hungary's foreign minister repeatedly called NATO's Ukraine mission, I quote, a crazy mission. How can you preserve the unity of the alliance when a member chooses to use such words?
Well, in NATO we are 32 allies, and sometimes there are different opinions, but we have proven again and again that we are able to overcome them and find a common way forward. On the increased NATO role in coordinating security assistance and training for Ukraine, I am glad that we have found a way to allow NATO allies to agree that, but at the same time also accept the position that Hungary will not participate. It's not a NATO obligation to participate in all NATO missions and operations or activities, as long as all NATO's allies adhere to the core obligations in the Washington Treaty, our collective defense, our security guarantees. What the Prime Minister and I have agreed today is that Hungary will not block other allies to agree a pledge for financial support to Ukraine and a leading role for NATO in coordinating support to Ukraine, but at the same time accept that Ukraine will not be a part of these activities. And that's a way which I think will work, and I am confident that when NATO leaders meet in Washington, we will be able then to finalize agreement on these issues.
Mr. Secretary General, Prime Minister, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. Goodbye.